When it comes to fashion, there's looking socially acceptable and classy, and then there's having the drip.
Perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
This is Atsuya, I'm guessing. I don't know how to pronounce that. A woman I ran into in Yakuza, or rather, she ran into me. She accused Kiro of being interested in her, and before you know it, there were some guys trying to kill her, thus committing elder abuse, and I could sort of not stand for that, thus making me commit ordinary people abuse. And for repayment for Kiro saving her, she decides to, well, kiss him. And out of all the people Kiro has fought, she is the only one powerful enough to overpower Kiro. She then gives Kiro a brown piece of candy, which I can only hope is actually candy.
What?
And she mentioned she used to work for a guy with one eye patch. That's when I knew. I knew it was my duty to search for her in every other Yakuza game, because in that moment I knew if I looked, I would find her. First stop, Yakuza 0. Yakuza 0. Come on, I keep on pronouncing it Yakuza. At this food stand, she shows up, and Majima gets frustrated when she cuts in line, and decides to try and move her by force, until she calls him a pervert, yet again accusing another man. Then she leaves for some mysterious reason, and we get to see her referred to as a tank battalion. Later, Majima returns to the stand and finds out that the senior citizens have multiplied. He then tells them to get real, and then they start bullying him, then flirting with him, and he decides he's outnumbered and leaves, but not before she gives him some candy, which thoroughly confuses him for good reason. Later, when he comes back, he sees yet another man being accused of being a pervert, and he thinks to himself, ha! He fell right into her trap, until he pulled out a switchblade. Majima then realizes that he's crossed the line, beats him up, and you guessed it, Granny now thinks he's a handsome devil, and she's also too powerful for Majima. She then kisses him and goes on her way. Next game! The man who erased his name. In the sub-story, Kiro is spying on some suspicious men, until she runs into him again. She then mistakes him for a man she used to be in love with, and Kiro actually starts to get a migraine. Among all of this, Kiro lost the men he was supposed to be spying on. Later, he finds his target again until she sees him from across the street and calls for him until what feels like every person in Japan notices him. She then asks if he wants to go out and get fresh bread at the bakery for tomorrow. Kiro then gets so confused by this he falls to the ground and begins to get dizzy. She then leaves, and he has to explain that why he lost his target again isn't because the woman that distracted him was just that beautiful, it's because she kept calling to him loudly over and over again in the middle of the street, and then she wanted him to buy bread. And finally, when he does track down these guys, she finds him and declares her love for him. And I'm not sure I've ever seen someone as sad as Kiro. I think this weirded out some of the other guys, or they just went to go buy some bread too because they left. And then she proceeds to kiss Kiro, and that's pretty much all of it for the evil reign of the Tank Battalion. Aside from those 3 appearances, she was mentioned in Like a Dragon, and she's seen in Infinite Wealth of at this moment I do not currently have. So that's pretty much that. You know where she is, and you know how to avoid her now. So my duty is complete. So with all that said, I'm gonna leave this video here. So take care of yourselves, have a decent day, and stay determined, out of the way.